And welcome to this edition of the Big Blue in the Bronx podcast. Kush the Hub is our guest today. Kush, welcome on.
Thank you for having me on, man. What's up? Oh, what you got playing in the background there?
I actually got the Mets game, even though I'm a Yankees fan. Spring training started, so I figured I might as well just, at least have something on since I don't have my green screen. But I was originally going to get to backup quarterbacks and tight ends, but did you hear about Kyle Van Noy?
I did, yeah. So Kyle, that was literally a couple minutes ago, maybe like
Yeah.
20 minutes ago, and I actually retweeted NFL Sports Update. I was like, this is 100% a move that the Giants should hop on. And then I tagged Logan around. I'm like, Logan, listen, are you saying that you wanted to use, your connections to lure guys here? You actually have a legitimate connection with Kyle. I know you guys were on the Patriots for so long together. Get to work, man. That's definitely something I could see the Giants doing, and I would not be opposed to.
And in that case, I think the Giants would actually probably take Kyler Fackrell out of their considerations in terms of, signing free agents and whatnot, bring them back. Because, Van Noy was with Judge in New England. He was with Patrick Graham in New England. So that could be a good fit. And I wouldn't mind it. And I'm actually kind of surprised. I mean, I don't know the terms of the contract, but it would definitely be a good fit here. And I'm surprised they cut him. But obviously, they save about $9.5 million in cap. All right.
But yeah, on the Kyler Fackrell thing, I can see where you're coming from for sure, right? Like basically that's what going to be Van Noy is going to come in and replace that type of player, a little bit older, a little bit cheaper. But Van Noy is still going to cost more than Fackrell for sure. I think Fackrell's a guy that's sub 5 mil, but Van Noy's a guy more that's like sub 10 mil. So we're still going to be definitely paying him a bit more for obvious reasons. But yeah, I did not think about it that if we were to pursue Kyle Van Noy, it would mean that Kyle Fackrell's probably not going to be in the picture anymore.
And as we discussed last night on your call-in show, I'm growing less sympathy for Leonard Williams. I mean, I know he's got his issues with the Players Association and whatever, but just because he had an 11.5 sack year, and he wanted Khalil Mack money even when he produced half a sack the year before. So I'm growing less and less sympathy for him. Obviously people will blame Gettleman and do what they do best, but I'm just growing less sympathy for him. And, next man up, if the Giants end up, having him walk in free agency, in which it wouldn't be a bad thing. I mean, it would be a bad thing, but in terms of the trade, the Jets got Ashton Davis and they still have the 5th round pick, I believe, for this year. So I still think at this point we won because we got 1 year free of Leonard Williams, 11.5 sacks and $16 million. So I just don't think that we lost that trade quite yet. I mean, we'll see what the Jets do with their, Ashton Davis and their 5th round pick of this year.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't at this point, whatever happens with Williams, I say we come out of the trade as winners because we didn't lose that much in the first place. Like you said, it was a 3rd and 5th. They used their 3rd to get Ashton Davis, who has yet to do anything, great in the NFL. I'm sure he could be a good safety. I mean, coming out in that draft, he was regarded as one of the top 5 safeties in that class. So I'm sure he's gonna at some point in his career do something. A worst case scenario is just we never hear about him again. But it's like when you really look, and this is gonna kind of connect to the Odell trade, which has always been coming back up in Giants media and for Giants content creators. And some people still somehow think we lost the Odell trade. I don't know how, because when you look at a trade to see, who won, you look at what did both sides gain. We gained Leonard Williams, initially half a sack, but even with that half a sack, that same year, he was eating up a lot of pressures. He was eating up a lot of he led the NFL in quarterback hits with half a sack, which is makes no sense. But that's probably why he was saying to himself, I'm worth Aaron Donald money because I led the NFL in quarterback hits. Came back the next year, gave us 11.5 sacks, was one of the best defensive tackles in the league. Even as a defensive end, he was like a top 15, maybe even top 10 defensive end in the league in 2020. And what we got that for a 3rd and 5th, a 3rd round pick that turned into a safety that didn't do anything yet, and a 5th round pick we have yet to see what happens with it. And we could get into the Odell thing as well, which I still 100% believe we won. And I really don't understand how people, when they look at it, they say that we lost that trade. And no, it's not coming from Odell. Hey, because I'm an Odell fan. I mean, like, Odell, I'm going to keep it real, for about a good 2-3 year stretch was one of the only reasons I watched the Giants because nothing else was going on.
I do agree about the Odell trade. I mean, even because what a lot of people don't know or seem to forget or whatever, because, it can easily be misconstrued, is that at the end of March, I think, I want to say, they turned that Zeitler Vernon trade and the OBJ trade into one trade. At least from what I've seen, I mean, still we did, the trade with the Browns, whatever, but definitely we got Jabril Peppers, who, improved steadily this year as, a playmaker on the defensive side. Also
on his rookie contract, so he was cheap.
Yeah, he's cheap, and it's gonna be time soon for him to sign an extension with the Giants. Hopefully, they can do that. I mean, it will be much easier, but also at the same time, Saquon Barkley's contract is coming up. We might have to sign him to an extension depending on what the Giants do this year. Also, O'Shane Ximines, we'll see what happens with him. Dexter Lawrence. I mean, doesn't it seem like he's one of the only guys in the 2019 draft class that did not regress? I mean, he had 2.5 sacks. Now he has 4 sacks.
Lawrence?
Yeah.
So let's think about the 19 draft class. DJ both regressed and progressed, as crazy as that sounded during the 2020 season to me. Lawrence got better. He's just going to get better. Obviously, Baker's off the team. He's a whole other situation. We didn't have our second round because we traded up. O'Shane, in my opinion, definitely regressed. Or, you know what? To be fair, it's not like he saw the field that much and he was out with an injury. But, yeah, you could say he regressed. Who was our 4th round pick in 2019? Was it Julian Love? Julian Love, I'd say he stayed the same, maybe even improved a little bit. Then again, once again, it's not like we saw him that much on the field. We saw him more towards the end of the season when they had him in the second cornerback role, and he did an okay job there. Did we 5th round pick? We took a lot of cornerbacks this year. Connolly, oh yeah, Connolly and Slayton. Yeah, Slayton. I wouldn't even say Slayton regressed. I would just say that the NFL actually just figured out how to just take care of him, and but yeah, you could definitely say that Connolly off the team, can't even make the team in Minnesota. 6th round, who we go? Another corner?
Corey Ballentine
off the team. 7th round. Did we have a 7th round pick in 2019? Can't remember.
We had George Asafo Ajay and Chris Slayton. Both are off the roster.
Both of them are off the roster. So yeah, you know what? The one person you could definitively say just got better was Dexter Lauren out of the 19 class.
Definitely. I mean, his sacks went from 2.5 to 4. Love, I would say, regressed a little bit at safety, at least, because from what I saw, I mean, a lot of people, have their different opinions in watching film and stuff. But the one play that really irks me, just going back to it, is that one play against the Rams where the score was, I believe, let's do the math here. I think it was like 10-6 or something like that. And then he slipped on the one route that Cooper Kupp was running, and that was a touchdown. I think it was 55 yards.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was the only big play they got off.
Yeah. I mean, other than going down the goal line a couple times, but it wasn't bad. I mean, it's not like our defense did horrible, but that one play just really sticks to me. And then they actually benched him the next game. He didn't play any snaps on defense. And then obviously towards the end of the season, he was cornerback too. And that's where, I kind of grown to like him. I mean, I'm a Notre Dame fan, so I would know, but obviously, that could make, I would say, the decision a little bit tougher for the Giants in terms of cornerback picking. Is he a fit? Is he not a fit? Does Graham like him? Does he not like him? Definitely. So let's go into backup quarterback options. I know your favorite is Tyrod Taylor. At least I saw from your video, or at least a little bit of it. Explain why.
So Tyrod is my favorite because the 3 things I'm looking for the Giants backup quarterback position specifically, because with any backup QB position, you're usually looking for 2 things. Can they come in and just take care of the offense in the absence of the starter? And can they be a reliable guy? Basically, that they're not going to get injured and whatnot, right? The 3rd thing for the Giants, for me, is can he still teach Daniel Jones something a little bit? And you know what? I'm going to add this in there, so make it 4 things. Is he a threat to DJ, right? So at this point in Tyrod's career, he's 3 out of the 4, 100%. I know he could come in and still take care of this offense if DJ goes down. I know that he's really not going to get injured because he's not going to see the field. And the reason I bring that up is because people are saying Alex Smith to the Giants as a backup QB. I'm like, why would we want a more injury-prone guy as our backup? It doesn't make sense. No. And I know for sure that when in the world was the 3rd thing I listed? Oh, yeah, he could teach Daniel Jones something. I don't know why I blanked on that. Well, he can teach Daniel Jones, even though I am of the group that says not all the DJ's turnovers were his fault. The fact of the matter remains, he had a lot of turnover-worthy throws in the 2020 season. No matter which way you slice it, dude had a lot of throws that could have been intercepted and that were intercepted. The one thing about Tyrod Taylor that stands out to me is that he does not turn over the football. He's not necessarily conservative, but he just keeps the ball safe. I mean, he's one of the only quarterbacks in the past like 5 years of the past 5 years NFL history that as a starter threw one interception in an entire season. The guy doesn't turn over the football. His interception rate on his career, I believe, is like below 3% or something crazy like that. He just knows how to keep the ball safe and make the safe play, make the decision that's not going to cost the team anything directly. And so I do think he could impart a little bit of that onto Daniel Jones, even though, once again, I don't think all of Daniel Jones' turnovers were his fault, but he still does have a little bit of those throws where you're like, man, DJ, you're lucky that cornerback didn't break on that, or you're lucky it slipped through the cornerback's fingers, man. And I think Tyrod could teach him that. The one thing that could put some people off, and that what I'm banking on for Tyrod to say, is that at this point he realizes he is that backup, maybe journeyman mentor QB, because whether by circumstance or whether just out of stuff that's not in his control, that's what he's been the past couple of years with the Bills. Took them to the playoffs 2017. They drafted Josh Allen. He was out of there. With the Browns, for Baker's rookie year, started the first couple games. Then he was out of there. With the Chargers, Justin Herbert, he started on, this was out of his hands because of his heart problem. Started, I think, 1 or 2 games, and then he was out of there, and Justin Herbert came in. With the Giants, I'm hoping he could be that for us. Other than the fact that he won't be starting, but he will be teaching DJ, and he will be that backup kind of mental role.
Definitely, I agree with you there. I would definitely love to get Tyrod Taylor as a backup this offseason. And Jordan Renan, Giants beat writer for ESPN, put out like a memo or something that Colt McCoy is likely coming back as a backup quarterback. And the reason why I don't like it was pertaining to your point about Tyrod Taylor. He can come in there, and it's not about injuries. He can come in there, and he could, have not a chemistry. He can just produce with the weapons he has around him. Like, I mean, we saw in the Browns game last year a couple of times they went downfield with Colt McCoy, which seemed a little odd. I mean, I know you had a different offensive coordinator because Garrett had COVID, but at the same time, McCoy is not going to be the guy you throw in there and he's going to, go with all your weapons. You can't produce. Now, I get it, different game plans for different QBs with Daniel Jones and, Colt McCoy. But Colt McCoy, even in the Seahawks game, they ran the football a lot. He only had one passing touchdown. That was on a running back pass to Alvin Morris. So that's something I definitely would like to see the Giants try to do, is go after a backup QB. And you brought up some good points that I was actually going to bring up, but you did it, so all right. About him being the bridge quarterback. Baker Mayfield in 2018, 2020, Justin Herbert. I mean, this guy, again, at the point in his career, or at least this point in his career, he has to realize that he is just a bridge option backup quarterback. And to be honest, I really find that attractive for the Giants. I really think that's a better option than Colt McCoy. But they're, in the list of QBs that I have on here, they have at least a little bit of something wrong with them. To start off with one, Andy Dalton. I really think that obviously the defense was a problem for the Dallas Cowboys last year, but I just feel like he was slinging a lot of the throws in Week 17. They could have been all intercepted, like one to Julian Love, one to James Bradbury. Finally got one picked off by Xavier McKinney that he just had to lob up there. Yes, Leonard Williams was pressuring him, but at the same time, Andy Dalton has seen that a lot in his career, unfortunately, with the Bengals, having, lackluster talent around him. But Jacoby Brissett, I really think that he didn't necessarily get the job done in 2019 with the Colts. I mean, they had Andrew Luck. Obviously, it's going to be a drop-off with Jacoby Brissett going in there with Luck's retirement. But, they were a 7-9 football team at that point. And, Brissett, again, I would like to probably have as a backup, but I just don't know that I have the confidence in him to, go in there and actually be a piece to this offense if Daniel Jones is missing. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm concerned about, and he did well with Miami last year. He's another bridge quarterback. But the thing I am concerned about with him is he's 38 years old. What if he slowly slips into the down point of his career? And, we can't trust him either because of injury or because of inconsistency. That's something I don't like. And some other options that I really wouldn't like are Blake Bortles, Joe Flacco, and Cam Newton. Newton obviously brings the, the fashion, the style, unneeded in New York, obviously, because, that would probably be, unfortunately, another Odell. Joe Flacco, he didn't necessarily, I mean, I get it. The Jets were, lackluster with targets. and just surrounding pieces with Adam Gase, but I just necessarily would not like him on the roster as a backup quarterback like Bortles. I mean, I know he's thrown to Allen Robinson, D.D. Westbrook. I'm just not a fan. He hasn't started in like 2-3 years. Another one that I wouldn't mind if he wasn't coming off an injury was Kyle Allen.
Oh yeah, no, I think it was probably like. But I was gonna say the thing about like a good amount of quarterbacks that you bring up, particularly the last one, Kyle Allen, is that, and this is gonna depend how you take it. They're probably a threat to DJ's job, in my opinion. As crazy as that sounds.
I can definitely agree with that there. And the funny thing is about Kyle Allen, obviously he started the first how many games for the Washington football team. His only turnovers were against the New York Giants. The
Mm-hmm.
interception, James Bradbury, and the fumble, which ended up, being taken back to the house by Tate Crowder. So if he wasn't coming off a season-ending injury, I would say, okay, bring him in as a backup. Mitchell Trubisky seems like, a decent option. I mean, he's not going to lead your team to the playoffs. I mean, then again, who knows? But I quickly want to bounce into tight ends as well, just like the position to draw it. Obviously, you got Ingram, you got Smith, you got Toilolo, and then you got the future contract guys, Nate Wedding, Nakia Griffin-Stewart, and Rice and John. And Ingram, second lowest catch rate of his career at 57.8, 11 drops this season. I mean, that is a lot. 10.1% for drops.
Was that not leading the NFL?
I want to say that led tight ends, but I can't be so sure. But I wouldn't be surprised at the same time. As I said, second lowest catch rate of his career. I think it was like 6 turnovers he made Daniel throw. Seahawks, the Cowboys game, the fumble against the Cincinnati Bengals is one that's his only fumble of the season. I definitely would like to see Caden Smith more involved in the offense, whether it just be, short passes or something like that. Also, just blocking as well, because a lot, and I think they did this towards the end of the season, and if they didn't, they should have, is instead of putting Ingram and Smith out there, they should have put Smith and Toilolo as the blocking tight ends. That way Ingram doesn't slip up a block and then, something happens in the backfield. That's what we saw this season.
For some reason, I was thinking that Levine was going to be off the team this season. For some reason, I was thinking his contract was up or something.
Well, I mean, his contract isn't up, but you could save about $2.95 million by cutting him. So I think the Giants might elect to do that. And, there's a couple of options in free agency, which I'll get to, but obviously, I would like to see Smith more involved in the offense. Switch this over just 1 second. So cap casualties, obviously, if you trade or release Ingram, you save about $6 million in cap. If you release Toilolo, that's about $2.95 million saved. Options of free agency, I don't think the Giants are pursuing a tight end in free agency. I think that would probably be at most a tight end 3. They could also do that in later rounds of the draft and also undrafted free agents. Hunter Henry, I think he's going to be commanding big money. He could be a fit for someone like the Jaguars. But at the same time, he has an injury history, and that's something I really don't like. I'm really concerned about Rob Gronkowski. I mean, he did come off a monster Super Bowl, but I just don't know if he's going to connect with any other quarterback.
Even if he is going to stay and not retire again, he's probably just going to stay with the Bucs.
I definitely agree with that. Jared Cook, he's slowly easing out of his prime. Tyler Kroft and Tyler Eifert, not really, good options for the tight end 1 position. Jonnu Smith, I wish we had the money to go get him. Honestly, I would have, been on that train if we had a lot of money, but unfortunately we don't. Tight end 3 options. I think these are some solid options. One of them was a breakout candidate. Well, not necessarily breakout, but he produced in key spots for the Eagles. Richard Rodgers, a couple of times last year, I think he put up 90 receiving yards every time against the Giants or something along that line. Trey Burton, Demetrius Harris from the Bears, and Ross Dwelley from the 49ers. And then you go into the draft options. I know your favorite is on there, Kyle Pitts.
But the thing is, right? Here's the thing with Kyle Pitts. If okay. This is where the misconception is. I love Kyle Pitts. I don't like him for the Giants. That's the difference, right? Kyle Pitts is a great tight end. In fact, he's not even tight end. He's just a great weapon. But he's a weapon, and you know what? The Giants do need a weapon. But if we bring him in, unless we're switching him to wide receiver, there is no reason to bring him in my opinion. Even if we switch him to wide receiver, Kyle Pitts is going to be a amazing, great number 2 wide receiver. I don't have confidence that he's going to be a legit number 1 that could consistently beat these NFL top level defensive backs, unlike the top wide receivers of the draft, because they've been playing against specifically cornerbacks for their entire career. Kyle Pitts will be a great number 2 receiver, and he's better than Evan Engram, because a lot of the reason that Giants fans that don't want him, their reasoning, not mine, is that he's just another Evan Engram. No, he's not. He's way better than him. He's completely unmatched in terms of route running with Evan Engram and actually catching the ball and making plays. He's a playmaker. The thing is, unless we switch in wide receiver, there's no reason to do that. And even then, I don't believe he's going to be our number 1. But if we do bring him in and just keep him at tight end, this is the thing. What are we going to do with Ingram at that point? Because Ingram is our receiving tight end. Then we have 2 pass catching, terrible blocking tight ends as our top 2 tight ends. And at that point, you're just like, what are we doing? Are we going to cut him? Are we going to trade him? That's why I actually like Pat Fryermuth a lot more for the Giants. Even though he's not really in play for us at 11 or 42, he's going to go around like the late 20s, early 30s.
Definitely. And what's been the talk for the past couple of years with the Giants fans? Oh, switch Ingram to wide receiver. The same mismatch does not occur with Ingram at a wide receiver spot. His mismatch comes with linebackers and safeties. That's at least the mismatch he is supposed to bring. That's not switching him to wide receiver and he could suddenly beat a corner. No, he can't do that. I think the Giants maybe know that. They probably do, that he can't switch over there. I think if they knew that, or at least if he could have done that, they probably would have switched them over there earlier. So, I mean, obviously that option is probably sailed for the Giants, switching him over to wide receiver. Now it's just going to be tight end. And obviously the other day, there was rumors coming out that, oh, they're shopping Evan Engram. The same guy had like 90 followers on Twitter. I mean, I don't know how anybody trusts that. I mean, it's ridiculous. But you did mention Pat Fryermuth in the second round. If he falls to us, I would definitely take him. Brevin Jordan out of Miami. I find him a little bit similar to Pitts. I think he could improve his blocking on some standard. He is kind of like Pitts. He could line up in the
Brevin Jordan has been rising up draft boards as well.
Definitely. And you could line him on the outside. You could line him on the inside as well. Obviously, just better blocking as well. And then obviously, like tight ends in the NFL that have been taken in the later rounds, you know, the analysts will project, oh, this guy can be, you know, a tight end 2, a tight end 3. Nonsense, because George Kittle and all those other tight ends selected in the later rounds. If anything, and I've said this how many times, this draft class for the New York Giants, the 2020 draft class, should have been a lesson that Giants fans learned. First round is one of many rounds. You could take somebody in the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and they can work. You just have to work at them. I mean, they may be projects, but hell, Shane Lemieux could be turning into a Pro Bowler one day. I don't know. But the thing is, what do you do with Evan
I'll tell you
Engram?
who the guy that we took in the mid rounds that could definitely has the potential to be somebody great is Tay Crowder. So you bring up a great point there. And I will say, what you brought with George Kittle and whatnot, that's another reason that I forgot to mention. People love to talk about positional value, but for some reason forget it when it comes to Kyle Pitts. You don't take a tight end 11th overall. We've seen it the past 2 or 3 drafts with guys like Hawkinson and Fant, and they're good tight ends in their own right, but they're definitely not worth where they were taking. I think Noah Fant was taking 8th overall or something crazy like that. Or was that Hawkinson? One out of them. They're not worth that pick. They're good tight ends. You go back and ask the teams if they take them, you know, later on, they'd probably say, yeah, because tight end is a position just like running back that you could find later on.
Absolutely, and especially in the Giants' case, when you're talking about running back, you know, they'll probably be doing some searching. Apparently, according to the same memo, Jordan Ron thinks that they're going to bring back Gallman. It just has to be the right price. And then how many times we got to talk about it? Is he going to be wanting more money from a team that wants to put him in the starter role or in a rotational role, maybe somewhere in like New England? James White is an option for the Giants. I know Renan listed that in his memo. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad option as a second running back or a third running back. I would like them to draft somebody in the later rounds, like Elijah Mitchell or something like that.
I love Elijah Mitchell in the late rounds,
especially familiarity. So the big question is whether the Giants select Pitts or somewhere else, or I don't know. What do you do with Evan Engram? And if you want to trade him, where do you trade him? Do you trade him before the draft? Do you trade him during free agency? Do you trade him during the draft for picks? Do you trade him after the draft? What would you do?
I want to trade him anytime up until the draft. I don't want to finish the draft and come out of draft night with Evan Engram still on the roster if the Giants are shopping him in this scenario, right? So that would be during free agency, before the draft, during the draft. That would be the time period that I'm looking to trade him if there's anybody genuinely interested. The teams that I'm looking at, anybody, bro. Anybody that wants Evan Engram, come over here, call up the GM's phone. Let me hear your price if for some reason you want him. Teams you're looking at that probably need tight end. The most famous one is the Bills because they're actually probably going to get a tight end, specifically maybe Fryermuth in the first round. That's a position they could use, and Ingram would actually be good over there because he won't be forced to be the number one target. He'll be behind Diggs. He'll be behind. I can't believe I'm saying this. Cole Beasley. Like he'll be less pressured. And it seems like that's what's getting onto his mind right now. But what other teams need tight ends that are slipping my mind right now? Maybe the Saints
Cardinals.
need a tight end. Yeah, Jaguars, that's a good one. But yeah, you think about the Saints, maybe they're gonna cut a lot of people. Maybe Jared Cook is gone. Maybe they need a tight end. There's a couple teams out there that could come knocking.
Yeah, definitely some of those teams, and I mean, some teams will end up giving up picks if they're rebuilding. I mean, let's see. Jaguars, they'll need some weapons. Tyler Eifert's going to be cut. Well, he's actually going to be a free agent, I believe, this offseason. So maybe they give up picks. I mean, I know they probably have a lot and they're in a rebuild. So obviously, the number one pick and all that stuff. But definitely I would trade him to a tight end needy team to get whatever I can get and then take somebody like Fryermuth. And my plan for that is, and obviously if the Giants end up just not finding a trade partner and releasing Evan Engram, you're going to obviously have those, people out there, oh, we got him for nothing. At the same time, they don't know what's going on inside the building if the Giants even found a trade partner. But at the same time, you save $6 million in cap, which would be, really, I would say a good job if Gettleman did that because, he's off your roster and maybe you could go out and draft. And then maybe they could kind of, trick another team into thinking, oh, they're going to select Kyle Pitts and the Giants actually take a corner. And I don't know, maybe it's just like one of those draft things, I would say situations, but it would be interesting definitely that way. My plan would be drafting Fryermuth or Jordan in round 2, trading Ingram during free agency. If you can't find a partner, obviously cut him and save the $8 million to $9 million along with Toy Lolo, and then find a tight end 3 in free agency or the back end of the draft because, I mean, tight end 3 is, it's still a key position, but at the same time, you could just find tight end 3s off the free agent market, sign them 1 year, cut them the next, but 2 tight ends matter, especially when you're in Jason Garrett's offense and you're especially run heavy. So hopefully during this offseason, Evan Engram is not a Giant anymore. If he is, then I wouldn't be surprised because him and Judge surprisingly like each other.
Yeah, that's a surprise for sure. And the way that I would go with the Evan Engram situation, and this is just because I'm thinking about the money, is that I would actually keep him because it's not too big of a cap hit, and I would keep him, but I would cut Levi and Toilolo because he has not produced as our blocking tight end at all. Toilolo has not been the guy for us. Honestly, our best blocking tight end this year was probably Caden Smith. And Caden Smith was just on here because he was a good receiving tight end. That's why people were saying, hey, yo, is he a potential replacement for Evan Engram? But Toilolo did not fulfill the job he was brought in here to do. So I would probably cut him. I'd keep Ingram, just let him play out the 5th-year option that we for some reason gave him last year. And, when he finishes the 5th-year option, he's done. That's it. Just let him go.
Definitely. And also an option I forgot to bring up, but it also could be possible. Trading him at the deadline in October. What teams will take him there? What teams are on the step to possibly making a playoff run? They need an extra receiver. They could trade for Evan Engram, give up a couple of picks. We take that into the draft and we do something with it because I think maybe at that time the Giants would be almost ready to compete, at least in 2022. But we'll see. We'll definitely see about that. That is pretty much the end of the Big Blue in the Bronx podcast, or at least this episode. Kush, thanks for coming on. You guys can check him out at the Hub on YouTube. He does call-in shows every Tuesday night. He's also on the Young Guns podcast with Kid Blue. I think it's every Wednesday, you said?
Yeah.
Every Wednesday?
It is indeed every Wednesday, yeah.
Also, I made an announcement on YouTube that I am starting another podcast every Monday with my brother and my friend Sean. We're going to be talking a bunch of sports. It's also going to be a barrel of laughs as well. Kush, thanks for coming on. Talk to you soon. Obviously, probably try to call in tonight. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning into the channel. And we'll see you on Friday. Kush, thanks for coming on.
Peace.